After countless steps and more than a few miles, your dog drives you forward one last time to make that final climb. And as the rising sun peeks out from the horizon, you know, incredible happens here because it starts here. With the fuel that makes it all possible, Pro Plan Sport. Discover advanced nutrition made to fuel strength and stamina in active dogs like yours at ProPlansport.com.
We get it. Distractions happen. That's why we designed the fully electric, full-sized Volvo EX90 with the latest technology to keep you and those around you safe. Its two-sensor driver understanding system is designed to prevent distractions and help you stay focused. Reserve your Volvo EX90 today. Learn more at volvocars.com/US.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are reacting to the San Francisco 49ers 27-24 week number 3 loss to the Los Angeles Rams in a game that simply put should have been won by the San Francisco 49ers. They lost against the Vikings in week number 2 in rather humiliating fashion. Brian Flores and that defense in Minnesota just strangled the Niners offense, didn't let them do much offensively. In this game, it was quite the opposite. It was the offense doing almost all of the work, while the defense had no answers for the Rams in the second half. This was bad. This is one of the worst losses in the Kyle Shanahan era. I think it is the worst loss, at least maybe since 2022 against the Broncos, the Jimmy Garoppolo safety game when they lose in Denver at Mile High. That was a bad one, but this is just a whole other level of bad. And one of the main reasons because of that is, yeah, you don't have Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, you don't have Deebo Samuel. No George Kittle, who got scratched late in the week. You are without your top stars. So are the Los Angeles Rams, who don't have 9 starters, including Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and 3 starting offensive linemen. They don't have their starting safety. And the San Francisco 49ers almost literally fumbled this game away a handful of times, but figuratively gave this game to the Rams over and over and over again. We'll dive into everything that went wrong offensively, defensively, some players that frankly should be told not to be on the plane ride back to the Bay Area. But we will dive into everything that happened and transpired at Levi South, which after this game, I'm not sure you can really call it that. Niner fans were out rocking their red. And early in this game, it certainly felt like another Niners dominant performance. It felt like it was leaning towards this game being ugly. My wife, who was laying in bed watching her Hulu shows, I walked in and I said, "Hey, honey, I have to work tonight, but it may be early because this game may get out of hand." That was the idea. For those who don't know, I work in sports radio and I do post-game shows for the 49ers. It was like, great, we're going to go out there and crush the Rams. This thing could get wrapped up early. I'm texting my father and we're like, oh my goodness, this thing could get ugly in any minute now. And every time San Francisco had an opportunity to put this game away, they, again, handed the ball back to the LA Rams. It was gross. It was a disgusting second-half performance, and frankly, it was inexcusable. Walking into this game, my thought was, there is no reason as to why San Francisco should lose this game. Absolutely no excuses. You got your butt handed to you against the Vikings in Minnesota. You come back, you bounce back, you do to the Rams what you've been doing to them all the way since 2021. Use them as your get-right game. In fact, since 2020, They have been the get-right game. What a perfect opportunity. You're 1-1. Great. Week 1 win against the Jets. Week 2, not great. You lost. Week 3, perfect. Bounce back. Get on the right track and hopefully figure some things out. San Francisco looked like a really good team in the first half of this game. Up until that last drive where Brock Purdy fumbled, this was a 14-7. San Francisco, the offense is rolling, the defense is getting stops. It's taking the Rams everything to score against this team, and things are looking pretty good. But as soon as that second half hit, and really up until that fourth quarter, that's when things went awry. But it was gross. I do want to start with positives, though, because that is, unfortunately, not going to be the majority of this podcast. I'm frustrated. I'm sure you're frustrated. Niner fans have every right to be frustrated. I think, if this is the last dance of this roster, if this is, the last go for the Super Bowl with this core, the first 3 weeks have certainly been quite the opposite of impressive. It's been a stumble. It's been kind of, I have a lot more questions than answers. It was a long offseason for San Francisco, and a lot of the questions that we didn't know were going to be there are arguably the most relevant ones. Who's cornerback 3? Who's linebacker 2? The offensive line and receiver number 1 and 2. There are so many things that you point to and say, well, this should not be a question, but frankly, it may be their biggest question mark on the entire team. But again, the good stuff. We'll dive into negative stuff in a second, but the good stuff. And if you can, like, share, and subscribe to the show. And let's dive into San Francisco's Week 3 loss to the Los Angeles Rams. We walked into this game, again, saying no CMC, no Deebo Samuel, no George Kittle. Brock Purdy, show me what you can do. And a lot of people didn't believe in Brock Purdy. A lot of people thought that this was going to be a game where Brock Purdy crumbles and fumbles. And, we're going to see what Brock Purdy is truly made of, was the sentiment, was the mindset walking into this one. And if there is any game to show anybody, show Purdy fans, Purdy detractors, albeit the outcome wasn't a win, Brock Purdy was by far the least of San Francisco's worries. In fact, Brock Purdy and Jauan Jennings, were the power forcing the Niners machine that kept shooting itself in the foot forward. They were carrying the gigantic boulder that was the defense that kept keeping the Rams in this game. Brock Purdy was excellent. He was 22 for 30, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns, 137.1 rating. He had 10 scrambles for 41 yards, so well over 300 yards on the day for Brock Purdy. You go back and you watch this game, almost every single throw to Jauan Jennings was a highlight. Every single throw, it was triple coverage. There was him just blindly trusting Jauan Jennings to go up and get it, and Jauan Jennings, being the great receiver that he is, just bringing it down, mossing Quentin Lake, and there was almost no fear from Brock Purdy throwing towards Jauan Jennings' way. Again, Purdy was slinging that rock around. There was a clear confidence level from Brock Purdy of, okay, my back's against the wall, I have to come out on top and play my A game. Brock Purdy was phenomenal today. Brock Purdy played winning football. Jauan Jennings played winning football. The effort from the defense was not great, but Brock Purdy and Jauan Jennings were kind of this, they were on the same page all day. This was a no Deebo, no McCaffrey, no Kittle, no problem kind of performance from Brock Purdy. Again, every throw you watch was darn near a highlight. It was that good of a day from Brock. He had 8 incompletions, 6 of them were drops, which goes to show you that he might as well, or could have been 28 for 30. That's how good he was in this game. He was putting balls that elite quarterbacks do every single week. You watch your Joe Burrows, your Lamar Jacksons, your Josh Allen, your Mahomes, whoever you want to put in that elite category of quarterback, Brock Purdy was putting on display what those quarterbacks do every single week in, week out. There were scrambles where he was double faking defenses and getting and diving for first downs. I mean, Brock Purdy was just an all-pro today. Again, I know it wasn't a win for San Francisco. If you point to effort and performance of anybody deserving a victory, it's Brock Purdy. There were so many times on third downs when they're backed up on, 2nd and 15, he's lacing throws to Jauan Jennings for 34 yards. When it's second and 16, he's finding Eric Saubert for 14 yards and setting up a easy 3rd and 2. Brock Purdy made this game very, very easy for Kyle Shanahan to call, to a point of, and maybe even to a fault of Kyle Shanahan's. He was letting Brock Purdy drop back, 5 wide, and it's letting him sling the rock with a 10-point lead. And unfortunately, that may have come back to bite San Francisco, although Purdy didn't turn the ball over, at least in regards to interceptions. Late in the game, he was safe with the football. He was keeping plays alive left and right. I mean, my goodness, that Lions game in the playoffs last year, in the second half when Purdy uses his legs, it was so clutch. It was very similar to this game. He was running for first downs, extending plays. There's plays in this game where he's running sideline to sideline, trying to scramble to get yardage or find guys wide open or get guys open and just making plays. I really never want to hear someone push back on Brock Purdy being a playmaker. Is he a game changer? Yeah. Is he Patrick Mahomes? No. No one else is Mahomes. And that should never be the expectation for him. And unfortunately for him, despite not having CMC and Debo and George Kittle and even Trent Williams for, a play or two because he got hurt in this game, needed an IV with cramps, Brock was able to persevere through all of those things everyone said, or most people said, would hold him back. There is no longer a motto or a stigma over him of a system quarterback. People are going to come down hard on Twitter and social media and say that, Brock wasn't good, he crumbled late. It was quite the opposite. Brock Purdy was as sturdy can be. Brock Purdy was the most consistent player not named Jauan Jennings, who had a career day in this one on the field. I mean, Brock Purdy was far better than Matthew Stafford. And I think that's what makes this game so tough to lose, is because you have Brock Purdy being great again, 22 for 30, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns, his best game of the season by far, probably the best we've seen him, dare I say, since last season against Washington. Been a while. Although Brock was good in the playoffs, this was by far his best performance in, 8 months. It's been a long time since we've seen this Brock Purdy, and they needed this Brock Purdy today. They needed MVP Brock Purdy, and he was MVP Brock Purdy. He was making plays left and right, but what makes this loss so hard to swallow is that San Francisco walked into this game knowing it's a must-win, knowing this is a chance to bury what was supposed to be our biggest rival in the NFC West. We can push the Rams to 0-3. It should take a miracle effort by the Rams to beat us. It should take, Matthew Stafford, 400-plus yards and 4 touchdowns, and just him being on another planet in this game to beat San Francisco. But that's not what it took. The Rams, and credit to the Rams defense for fighting nonstop, the offense for fighting. They could have easily given up in this game. They didn't. They obviously saw something in San Francisco's defense and even the offense that, if we just keep trucking along here, they're going to give the game to us. And that's exactly what happened. San Francisco's defense was atrocious in this game. We're talking, bottom 10 level defense in football. And you never want to overreact week by week. Sometimes we're all guilty of that, I definitely was after the Jets week 1 win. And felt like, great, we're in a really good spot here. You can beat the Vikings and beat the Rams and beat the Patriots and beat the Cardinals. This team could be 5-0 without Christian McCaffrey, and this is going to be great and crazy. Wow, they're going to be in a perfect spot once he gets back to going to run again. But it's not going to happen. This team doesn't deserve to be 3-0. This team doesn't deserve to be 2-1. This team deserves to be 1-2. This team has played like a 1-2 team. This is the worst Niners iteration of them that we've seen since their 3-game loss last year against the Browns, Vikings, and Bengals. And to push things further, this is the worst defense we've seen since the 2021 season, when they had no cornerbacks and it was Dre Kirkpatrick and Josh Norman, and it was like, oh my goodness, can anybody play cornerback for this roster? It's ugly. It is really, really ugly. But again, staying with the positives for one more second, Jauan Jennings was just, oh my goodness. Like, this was, we talked so much about Brock Purdy having to have a great game. The next question was, who's going to step up without your top 3 offensive stars? And Jauan Jennings, enough cannot be said about how good he is. You know, I was someone that pushed back on the idea of him being a receiver number 2, because I knew that he fits so perfectly in that big slot receiver, clutch third down guy, go up and get it, bigger body dude. He just fits that role to a T, and he still does for sure. He's probably one of the best slot receivers in football, but, you know, Jauan Jennings is ascending up the receiver ladder with each and every game this year. 12 targets, 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, and with a lot of those catches, it's not just, you know, a Michael Thomas slant god, you're going to get these easy catches, or Alvin Kamara check down, you know, where he's touching the ball 25 plus times. You know, Jauan Jennings earned almost every single catch in this game. He was diving for plays, he was sliding for plays, he was tiptoeing on the sideline for plays, he was being aggressive, he was fighting through contact, he was mossing people. You know, he again was earning every single one of these catches. It's not like he was, again, just check down God with Derek Carr at quarterback. You know, Brock Purdy's throwing the ball, you know, 35 yards downfield, 31 yards downfield, 16 yards downfield, sliding in triple coverage, and, you know, trusting Jauan to go up and get it. You know, Jauan became the first Niner player or Niner receiver since last season, Week 5 against the Cowboys, to have 3 touchdowns in a game. That was George Kittle against the Cowboys last year with the F Dallas t-shirt in primetime, pretty great. Today was Jauan Jennings, and, you know, I think had you told anybody Jauan Jennings will have 3 touchdowns in this game, have 11 catches for 175 yards, we all would have said, San Francisco won by 20, right? No, they lost by 3. That's really the story of this game. Jauan became the first Niner since Jerry Rice in 1995 with 10-plus catches for 150-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. We are talking Jerry Rice and Jauan Jennings in the same category. Now, you know, I doubt Jauan has a Jerry Rice-like season or career, but in games like this, when you don't, like, you know, when your top 3 stars are absent, someone's got to step up, and I don't really think there is a worry next time if Debo's not going to be healthy, albeit you want him to be out there, or CMC's not going to be healthy, or Kittle's not going to play. Again, albeit you want those guys out there, San Francisco's offense, by all intents and purposes, and really, you know, what they showed today proves that Brock Purdy can thrive without his top stars, and Jauan Jennings can be a legit receiver number 2, and on some games against the bad secondary, it might be your receiver number 1. You know, Jauan Jennings is no longer just a slot receiver role player. He is a bona fide number 2 receiver in the NFL. Obviously, once Debo gets back and Ayuk can find himself, oh my God, they'll hopefully be, you know, back to their normal form and their roles, and things will be great. But I mean, by all means, Jauan Jennings, enough cannot be said about what he did today. He was just spectacular. It's not even worth talking about every single catch because they're all highlight worthy. It's just crazy. But finally, let's get to Jordan Mason, 19 carries, 77 yards. He's pretty good. Isaac Grendo got some touches. Good to see the rookie out there. I think, you know, without Christian McCaffrey, you want to see someone else step up. And Grendo, did answer the call. 5 carries, 19 yards. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't great by any means, but overall was a nice kind of change of pace for San Francisco's offense. But let's dive into negatives now because there's a lot. It's already been 20 minutes of the show, and I cannot contain myself any longer. What the heck was that? What happened today? I'm sick to my stomach to what I saw in Southern California. This was the 5th loss in which the San Francisco 49ers led by at least 10 points in the fourth quarter under Kyle Shanahan. That is the second most since 2017. The San Francisco 49ers, according to ESPN, had a 95.5% chance of victory in the fourth quarter, and yet they lost by 3. There was effort issues. Special teams was just dog dookie, to put things in a PG version of it. Shanahan, who called a great game for the most of it, questionable clock management late in the game that cost him. Jake Moody missing field goals. And my goodness, there was so much that went wrong. And I want to start at the top.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Offensively, Brandon Ayuk continues to be just this big, fat, when are you going to show up? And Ayuk wasn't the biggest issue today. I think he was one of the bigger issues offensively, for sure. While most of the main issues are on the defense, offensively, Brandon Ayuk, you can tell there was a concerted effort to get him involved early. Through 3 drives, he had 10 targets. Now, those 10 targets do include plays where there were penalties, so plays that were called back, plays that San Francisco got DPIs on. You can tell there was this effort to, okay, let's get Ayuk involved early. We're going to need him. Through 3 drives, 10 targets, 4 catches for 34 yards, but then he dropped the ball twice. Now, one of them I can forgive him for. Ball was kind of behind him. Hit him in the hands, though he dropped it. But the other one, you cannot be a $30 million receiver and drop 2 balls. He dropped the pivotal 3rd and 4 in this game. Rather early, but could have definitely given San Francisco a longer drive, chewed up more clock, maybe scored some more points, who knows. But my biggest qualm, if you will, is that through 3 drives, again, there was an effort to get you involved. You had 4 catches in the game through 3 drives. Cool, great. Ayuk's, finally kind of rounding into form, breaking out of the shell, and hopefully come game's end, come next week, he'll be back to Ayuk or even closer to what he was last year. That was my thought once the first half was over with. In the second half, only 1 more reception. 1 more. He caught 1 more pass in the second half. He was a non-factor the entirety of the 3rd and 4th quarter. Now, I know. Everybody in the comments screaming, Sterling, if Purdy had hit Ayuk deep over the safety and the linebacker, it's a game-winning touchdown, game-clinching touchdown, and maybe you're right. But I'll tell you this. There is a clear distinction between who Brock Purdy trusts and who Brock Purdy didn't have an offseason program with. It's not just preseason, it's training camp, more importantly here. Brock Purdy trusted Jauan Jennings, which rightfully so, but Jauan was there almost every single day in training camp and OTAs. He had the entire offseason to work out with Jauan, gain that chemistry, build that trust, build that timing, build that rapport. Brock Purdy in the second half of this game, the 4th quarter specifically, trusted Ronnie Bell with the ball more than Brandon Ayuk. That's not a good thing. Now, we'll get into Ronnie Bell in a second because, my goodness, I hope you are sitting at the tarmac and didn't get on the plane. Why are you on this team still, Ronnie? And we'll dive into him in a second, but my God, I'll never call for a player to get cut or fired, but I think it's time to say goodbye to Ronnie Bell. It may have been time during roster cuts, but I digress. We can talk about, Ayuk held out and blah, 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 and that's hurting him. It'll take him time to catch up to speed. Yeah, understandable. But in games like this, when you don't have your top 3 stars, you are the next man up. You are the star. You want to be Devontae Adams. You want to be the guy. And in the first half, it felt like that was going to happen. Great, you're going to target him 10 times. He'll have 8 catches for 86 yards, maybe a touchdown. Cool, great. Ayuk's back, baby. BA 1K. Oh, he's feeling himself. He has a new haircut, new money. Man, Ayuk's back. Ayuk waved hello, and then it was like, goodbye, as soon as that second half started. And it's not, this week was different than last week. Last week was, offensive line was terrible. Brock didn't have time to throw. The offensive line was relatively okay today. I know Brock got sacked a few times, but it wasn't like Brock sometimes didn't have literally 20 seconds to throw. This was Brock is watching Ayuk and doesn't trust him with the football. And it's worse when, the first 2 weeks, there's timing issues, offensive line issues. Now when Ayuk is involved in the game plan, Purdy is kind of force-feeding him the ball in the first half, and you drop 2 passes. That's not going to make the quarterback trust you. That's not going to make a quarterback say, you know what, I want to trust him with the football late in the game. But he trusted Ronnie Bell. Ayuk, unfortunately, has kind of dug himself into this hole and is going to have to dig himself out of the hole. But there are so many other plays. For as long as I've kind of harped on Ayuk in this podcast, there are so many other plays that cost San Francisco. I'm sure many of you are in the comments saying, well, why don't you run the football? And I would say, yeah, you're right. To kind of jump around here, Jordan Mason in this game, 19 carries, 77 yards, 4.1 yards per carry. He was good. There were a couple of plays he got stuffed, but overall, Mason was good. He came into this week as the NFL's second leading rusher. He left the game with 77 more yards, a couple more catches, and looks again like a well-rounded running back that can impact almost any game he's in. He was moving the ball well against the Rams' defensive line, which they should have. It sucks. The Rams' defense is dog dookie again, to put it in the PG way. It's bad. But I don't know what it is, but you talk to any Niner fan, whether it's 2019, 2021, 2022, last year in the Super Bowl, they will tell you Kyle Shanahan is too smart for his own good. And for as good as Kyle was in this game, for as good as Brock was in this game, for as good as Jauan was in this game, for all the things that went right for San Francisco in this game, there were about 10 other things that went wrong for San Francisco. Sticking with Jauan Jennings in the running game, they were up 21-14, San Francisco was. From that moment, from the drive in which San Francisco got their last field goal of the game, Jordan Mason carried the football a total of 4 times for 13 yards in the final 3 drives and 1 extra play that became the final play of the game. So the final 3 drives of the game, Jordan Mason, the NFL's second leading rusher, only touched the football 4 times. How? I don't want to use this against Kyle Shanahan because he didn't say this, but Christian McCaffrey called Jordan Mason the closer. He called him Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer in MLB history. If there was any opportunity to use the closer, don't you think it would be up by 10 points? In this case, 7 points, which you inevitably got the field goal to make it 10 points, and put away the Rams? You can see momentum shift in this game clearly. The offense gets into it, the defense gets into it, the fans get into it, and oh my goodness, you can't stop anything. Before that even happened, the San Francisco 49ers had an opportunity to ice this game. Now, maybe Mason fumbles, maybe they don't get a first down. This is all obviously hearsay. It's Monday morning quarterbacking, but that's all we can do after you watch what transpires. But I guarantee you, my father, you, your mother, your sister, your grandma, your great aunt Debbie, it don't matter who it is, Aunt Jemima, it don't matter. They're all saying, Kyle, run the football. Why are you passing the football up 10 with a quarter to go when you're getting 4.1 yards a carry? Make the Rams stop you. I'm sorry. What's 4.1 times 3? Oh, 12? You only need 10 yards for a first down. Obviously, it isn't that simple. Football's hard. Each down, you have to fight for every single inch you earn, right? But I have no idea if it would have changed the game. Maybe San Francisco still loses. But why would you not utilize, again, the league's second leading rusher more to ice the game? Maybe you're not in a situation where you miss a field goal late, or in a position where you need Brock Purdy to throw for 65 yards to get you in field goal range, or you get sacked in this, that, and the other. But that's one gripe of many. We'll have many more to come, starting with plays that cost San Francisco. I'm going to save the defense for a little later because I got a little message for the boys out there, and I want to save that for the next, 5 minutes here or so, but there were a lot of key plays that cost San Francisco, and I'm sure there are plenty I missed, but they were the key ones late in the game I pointed to, and I said, wow, that really put a damper on this one. That is what changed the trajectory of a 95.5% chance to win to a loss when it's all said and done. The first one was they're marching. San Francisco's marching downfield. They run the football to the left with Jordan Mason. Kyle Juszczyk gets called for a holding penalty, moves him back about 8 yards. Now they're put in position at the Rams' 48-yard line. It's 1st and 15. Eventually, they can't get a first down. It leads to a Jake Moody missed field goal. Had you not had the holding penalty, that's a first down. Drive still alive. You at least, if you don't score a touchdown, you get Jake Moody a 40-yard field goal. Maybe it's a 38-yard field goal. Who knows what it would have been. It wouldn't have been a 55-yard attempt that Jake Moody eventually missed. Okay. Jake Moody misses the field goal. This is not good. The Rams have the ball at midfield. What's the one thing you can't do as a defense? The opposing defense gets a stop. Moody misses the field goal, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is not going well. Crap. This is bad. Okay. The last thing you can do is allow a deep shot downfield. Keep the ball in front of you. It's like playing no doubles defense up by 2 or up by 3 in the bottom of the 9th inning. You're trying to limit the big play. You don't want runners getting into scoring position. You don't want the Rams getting into the goal line, the red zone, for a chance to tie the game up. You can't do this. What happens? The very next play after the missed field goal, Matthew Stafford completes a 53-yard bomb downfield because Mooney Ward gets caught sleeping and napping. Just like, bro, I don't know what nap time you had set, but turn the alarm on, brother, and wake the F up. That's the one thing you can't do. And my goodness, man, I love Charvarius Ward. He's a great player. He's been great the past 2 years. come up big time after time. He's locked up good receivers. He was money in the Super Bowl and the playoffs. He's locked up DK Metcalf. He shut down Rams before. He's done everything they've asked him to do. He has been a bona fide number one cornerback. But this year so far, he wasn't terrible against the Vikings in coverage. He was bad against the run, which we covered. But in that Vikings game, in the post-game press conference, in the locker room, they asked Mooney Ward, how did it feel to watch George Odom and Jair Brown lose Jefferson in double coverage? Would you have wanted to cover Justin Jefferson on his 97-yard touchdown pass? He was like, yeah, I should be out there doing so. For lack of better words, to just kind of put it simple, he was like, yeah, I should be out there. It's a scheme thing. I didn't choose that. I want to cover Jefferson. Great. You're a dog. You want to have that mentality. Cool. You want to be an alpha. Cool. I love that. You want the smoke. Tutu Atwell blew smoke up your ass in this game. That is inexcusable. You want the smoke from the NFL's best receiver, and you blow a snap like this, a coverage like this against a bona fide number 3 or 4 receiver on the Rams? Had that been Cooper Kupp, it's still inexcusable, but it's Cooper Kupp. He's a great receiver. It's Puka Nacua. Amazing rookie season. For back-to-back weeks, San Francisco's secondary, which has an all-pro and a wannabe all-pro and a fine number 3 cornerback, is getting beat by the backups to backups. Jalen Naylor, Brandon Powell, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington. It's no disrespect to those players. They all have certain skill sets. Atwell's a speedster. Whittington is trying to be Jauan Jennings for the Rams at a Texas 6th-round pick. I get it. But you want to be the guy? You want to be that dog, that number 1 corner? You got caught sleeping, brother, on one of the biggest plays of this game. Okay, that sucks. The Rams eventually tie it up. San Francisco is then marching downfield. Gonna go put this game away. Ooh, I can't wait. Brock Purdy gonna show the world what he's made of. The defense gave up the massive play. How is Brock gonna respond? Man, it's 24-24, a minute and 51 on the clock. Purdy scrambles, short gain. Now a minute and 46 on the clock. Complete to Ayuk for a first down, great. They're moving the ball. They have 1 timeout left, perfect. A minute and 12 left on the clock. Incomplete to Ayuk. Okay, 1 minute and 8 seconds left. It's 2nd and 10. You get this ball, you're in Rams territory. You're setting Jake Moody up for him to bounce back and make his game-winning field goal, go down, win this game, right the wrong your defense just did. Purdy, a little movement to his right, finds Ronnie Bell, streaking up the seam with the guy on him. Bell spins around, the ball hits him right in the hands, and he drops it. It would have been the game-winning catch, or at least put them in position to win this game. Even after the Juszczyk hold that led to a missed field goal, that led to a Mooney Ward blown coverage, that led to a Rams game-time touchdown, you still had an opportunity. You still had a chance to win this one. Oh, Purdy's doing his darn thing. You out there throwing the ball left and right and the other, slicing, dicing, opening up plays and holes for the offense. And Ronnie Bell says, bang, right in the hands and goes, I shouldn't have had that popcorn like he's Brucey in the longest yard. I'm sorry. I know you can block, Ronnie. I know it's why you're out there. No block, no rock. But the same thing that has plagued you from the beginning of training camp in your rookie season is plaguing you now. You dropped the ball 2 times a practice. You have had inconsistent hands in 2022, in 2023, and now. Actually, you weren't there in 2022, but my point still stands. You were just as bad today as you have been in last year's training camp, in this year's training camp. I get it. No block, no rock. I'm sorry, but when you block, you cannot be trusted to catch the rock. I like my I like my receivers, and maybe it's just me, to actually be able to catch the freaking football with the game on the line. And I don't know as to why Kyle Shanahan was putting Ronnie Bell out there, Jauan Jennings, and Brandon Ayuk. You have Chris Conley. I mean, my goodness, this is a time that Shanahan's scheming frustrates me, because one of my friends, Chris O'Connell, who I work with at 957 The Game, he loves Chris McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. He always goes, we are so dynamic when we have those two guys on the field. Without those guys, we lose our dynamicism, right? Like, we lose, is that even a word? But we lose the ability to be dynamic. We lose our athletes. We lose guys that make the average NFL player look slow, that look like they shouldn't be on the same field as Chris McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. Why? Did Jacob Cowing, shoot Kyle Shanahan's dog or something? When you don't have that speed, when you don't have that ability to make 3 or 4 guys miss, and that physicality by Deebo and Kittle, and the elusiveness of Christian McCaffrey, why not utilize Jacob Cowing, who has freaking 4.3 speed? And it's not even on this play in particular, but my mind thinks of, well, Chris Conley almost never drops a ball. I'd rather see Jacob Cowing drop this ball than Ronnie Bell, who is your 7th receiver on the active roster. The only reason Ronnie Bell even made the active roster this year was because they were unsure if Brandon Ayuk was going to be there day one. Ayuk's been here, then Pearsall gets shot. Unfortunately, this probably would have been him out there, not Ronnie Bell. So Pearsall gets shot. Ayuk comes in, okay, let's keep Ronnie Bell. You never know. Then Deebo gets hurt. Okay, why does... Clearly, Ayuk goes from 2-1. Jennings goes from 3-2. Okay, you don't have the 4th guy there because of Pearsall. So Conley goes from 5 to 3 because you already got 2 guys out. Why is Ronnie Bell ahead of Jacob Cowing? Why is Cowing getting no offensive snaps in the game? You don't have your athletes. That is so frustrating for a receiver. And it didn't just happen once. It happened twice in this game. Every time Ronnie Bell, right in the hands, drop, right in the hands, drop. That cannot happen. It's like he literally had bricks for hands. It's like he had planks of wood and it was just bang off the backboard on the ground. That can't happen. Another costly play. And of course, the missed field goal, obviously. But one of the biggest takeaways from this game, and unfortunately, it has plagued San Francisco since at least 2019. At least. And it is an issue in multiple games every single year. They have tried to put some money towards this unit. They have tried to change the coordinator. They have tried new different things. They've brought in people. They've changed return men. They've cut guys. They've brought guys in. They've brought in specialists. None of it works. And that is the special teams unit. My goodness. How many times do fans, does a quarterback, does a defense that is playing out of their mind, in this game in particular, the offense that puts up 24 points against the Rams defense that they, to be fair, should have put up more points against, but I digress. They're playing great. Purdy's playing great. Jennings is playing great. Cool. 24 points. This game should have been a piece of cake. And even when the Rams started to kind of claw their way back, what was the big play that spurred the clawback? That spurred this comeback? That definitely came slowly until that last 4th quarter, but it allowed the Rams to stay in the game. The Rams, Matthew Stafford didn't even complete a pass, I believe, until the 3rd drive of this game. Okay? I think it was a 3rd and 8 that Isaac Yadam got beat downfield by Tutu Atwell. That was the first completion of this game by Matthew Stafford, if I'm correct. In that exact same drive, it was intentional grounding on Stafford, made it 2nd and 21. Then it was 3rd and 12. Then it was 4th and 6. The Rams run a fake punt, and that leads to a touchdown. Their first one of the game makes it 14-7. Now, I'm not sure if you listen to Kyle Shanahan's post-game press conference. I do, because I have to, and I want to know what's transpiring after the games. But if you had to listen to it and you caught it, towards the very end of it, I'm talking the very last question, they asked about this punt, this fake punt. What did Kyle Shanahan say? It wasn't typical coach talk of, it really caught us by surprise, or, we got to be better on those. No, Kyle Shanahan admitted that we knew it was coming. You knew it was happening, and you didn't call a timeout to discuss with your special teams coordinator if you knew that you had the Rams on the ropes. 4th and 6, you're up 14-0. Now's a really good opportunity. If you stop them, you get the ball near midfield, maybe even on their side of the field. This is a desperation move by the Rams, and you know what's coming, but you do nothing to stop it. Now, maybe Kyle's lying. Maybe Kyle's talking out of his butt, for all we know, but of all the things to lie about, I don't think this is the one to do that with. So, they're going for a fake punt. Hey, this is a moment to make or break this game. And there were so many opportunities for San Francisco to have that backbreaker play. Many of those we already talked about. Field goal by Moody, he missed. Kyle Juszczyk's run, or holding on the run. Ronnie Bell's drop pass. Again, the missed field goal, the block punt coverage. There are so many other plays you can talk about. And more that we've already talked about. There's so many plays you're like, they just made that one play, it puts this one away, and they win at least by 3. But
George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie Wolves is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie Wolves,
you can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it. So do it.
Definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Let me ask you this. If you knew, hey, my car is going to run out of gas, I know inevitably. I know it's coming. The gas light's on. It's kind of starting to sputter. You're getting that. And you're like, I should probably get some gas. What do? You go on your Google Maps, you find the nearest gas near me. You go to the first one you find, it's 0.5 miles away. Hope I can get there. You're hoping. Oh, your fingers crossed. You're like, Lord God, I don't want to get stranded in the middle of the desert, wherever you live. I don't have a gas can in the car. I don't want to walk half a mile. I don't have, roadside assistance. I just got to get some gas. You know what's coming. You do what you need to do to make sure you can get some gas in your car. Kyle Shanahan, if what he said is the truth, that they knew a fake punt was coming, well, where's the timeout? Where's the, hey, if we know a fake punt's coming, let's make an audible. Let's put the freaking base defense out there and say, beat us. If they beat you, fine. What do you lose? If they say, you know what, we're going to punt the ball anyways, we're not going to fake it. If you're wrong, wouldn't you rather be safe and sorry? So what, you're down at your own 10-yard line. Like you haven't been before? Like you didn't march 91 yards against the Vikings defense last week? What is that train of thought of, I know my car's running out of gas, but I'm going to keep driving to hopefully reach my destination? No. You take the necessary steps to find a solution. Shanahan, if this is true, and he knew it was coming, I mean, that's just negligence. That's like, what in the world are you thinking? How is that a head coach's mentality of, I knew it was coming, but I just didn't want to stop it? Like, you can't even blame Brian Schneider there, if that's the case. But this feels eerily similar to how he called out Steve Wilks against the Vikings last year. And you can read this in one of two ways. One, Kyle's being straightforward, blah, blah, blah. I knew it was coming, whatever. The other way to look at this is that this is him saying, I knew it was coming. I told Brian Schneider, the special teams coordinator. He didn't make the adjustment. He didn't make the change. It was his call. He blew that. If that's how you want to read into this, I can see that being the case. This could be Kyle Shanahan saying, this is Brian Schneider's get out of the booth on the zero blitz Vikings game of last year. Of your fake punt that you didn't cover gave the Rams eventually 7 points. You got to fix and clean that up. But that wasn't the worst special teams issue in this game. Obviously, missed field goal, which missed field goals are not Brian Schneider's fault. But Brian Schneider was a part of that group, and so is Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, that drafted Jake Moody, who has been pretty good throughout training camp and preseason this year, and been good the first 2 games of the season. But you drafted him for kicks like this, for Kyle Shanahan to tell the media, to tell you and I and the people in that room that cover the team every single day, that Jake Moody, this is the most comfortable I've ever felt with a kicker plus 50 yards. Oh, really? And now look, 55 yards is a long ways away. It's over half a football field. I couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. But my goodness, Jake Moody, you are supposed to do it. It's not easy. It's no chip shot. It's a long field goal. 3rd highest drafted kicker since 2004. You're supposed to make kicks like that. They had the distance. He just push you a little left. That can't happen. Now, you're not really paid to do that, but you're certainly drafted high enough that those kicks should be as close to a guarantee as possible. The hold was good. You had no excuse as to why you missed that field goal. But that's not Brian Schneider's fault. What is the biggest blunder of this game? It is befuddling. It frankly pisses me off. This is the biggest one. Okay. Ronnie Bell drops the pass, forces a 3rd and 10. Purdy scrambles all around, can't get a first down. Crap. There's 55 seconds left on the clock. 55 seconds left. Okay. How is San Francisco going to do this? They're going to punt. That makes sense. You don't want to give the Rams the ball back on, dare I say, midfield. Why would you want to do that? That sounds like an idiotic thing to do. You're on your own 45-yard line. You're already near midfield. You're not going to go for it, so you're going to punt. Great. This should be a punt that it's high, hanging, or it's at least out of bounds, or it's out of the back of the end zone. It essentially takes away the Rams' ability to make a return. Mitch Wishnowsky, ball is snapped, catches it, and we're talking the most line drive possible punt I have ever seen. No hang time, no nothing. They then blow the punt coverage, and with 55 seconds left on the clock, San Francisco special teams allows Smith, the Rams punt returner, to go 38 yards and march to the 50-yard line. How? How many times? My message to Kyle Shanahan is, how many times do you have to watch your special teams unit continue to bite you in the rear? Oh, but we signed Oren Burks, and we went and got Ray McLeod, and we got George Odom, and we got Jake Moody, and we let Samuel Womack go, but we got Chase Lucas, we got all these guys, we got Malik Mustafa, and some of those guys can still be good, and they all can be contributors, but my goodness, how many, every time San Francisco punts the football, it's like, oh, it better be a touchback. That better be a fair catch. Because if it's not, it might be a house call. How many times in the playoffs, how many times does something like this have to cost you against the Packers last year in the divisional round? Or the Super Bowl when McLeod can't get out of the way of the punt that hits him in the leg and Darrell Lear Jr. And like, how many times does this have to happen? How many fake punts does the opponent have to run against your unit? It's almost like Brian Schneider's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And Shanahan's like, I don't want to deal with it. If my offense can score 30 points a game and my defense can allow 20, I never have to worry about special teams. That is not how you do it in the NFL. I get it. It is probably the least important unit out there. It ain't quarterback. It ain't running back. It's not going to win you Offensive Player of the Year. It's not going to win you DPOY. It's not going to win you Super Bowls, likely, unlike last year, unfortunately. But special teams has to be a focus. And I get it. They tried to put a little bit of money in there with the players they had, but then that really didn't work. This is a coaching issue. This is a philosophy issue. Special teams, despite burning San Francisco over and over and over and over and over again, there's been no effort to improve the unit as a whole. You brought in Brian Schneider and you hoped, he was in Seattle, he's got to be great. And it's never worked out that way. In fact, the unit is still one of the worst special teams groupings in the entire NFL. You let a block punt happen against the Vikings last week, missed a field goal this week, a blown punt coverage. You fumbled the punt against the Vikings last week. Through 2 games so far, although it really hasn't been the determining factor in the outcome of the game because this game shouldn't have gotten to that point. When it gets to that point, when you have to punt the ball from your own 45-yard line, your punter doesn't do his job, and the guys meant to tackle the return man don't do their job. That is a coaching issue. You fired Steve Wilkes. Probably a good decision because he wasn't doing things that aligned with what Kyle Shanahan wanted. Obviously, he heard from the leaders in that group of like, hey, this ain't working. There were clear stumbles last year. There were clear holes defensively in this scheme, in the play calling that hurt San Francisco. You fired Steve Wilkes. What is the excuse to not fire Brian Schneider? This isn't a one-year thing. This is a multiple-year issue of how long do we have to watch this thing continue to be an Achilles heel of this team that makes the defense, who is already gassed, have to play with 20 yards to work with. That is unfair, especially in a game like this when your defense can't stop a semi-truck like that. It doesn't make any sense. My father always tells me doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. For as genius as Kyle Shanahan may be, and maybe it's not all his fault, maybe it's unfair to blame him for this, but for as genius as he is, what the is going on? There is this pure insanity here. And it took the Rams 2 plays to then score. It was bang, bang, night, night, game over. It was the big punt. It was a couple plays later, it was like, bang, this game's over with. Field goal, night, night, call it a game. San Francisco's not going to win. That shouldn't have to be the case. It shouldn't. But now let's finally move to the defense because this all comes full circle. It all comes together. The offense had their issues, but they scored 24 points, just like the defense did against the Vikings last week. They got a pick. They got a forced fumble. They did their job, for the most part, to put the offense in a position to win the game. It was the exact opposite this week. The offense was doing all of the work, mainly 2 guys named Jauan, Jennings, and Brock Purdy. I mean, they were just phenomenal out there today against the Rams. But the defense, when we walked out of last year, you lose the Super Bowl, you know who's a free agent, you go, we have to get better at edge rusher, cornerback number 3 on the outside, number 2 replacing Ambry Thomas, getting a new safety in here to replace Hufanga, who's injured, Dre Greenlaw's hurt, getting a linebacker number 2. Starting with the pass rush, does anyone know what the terms get home mean? And look, Nick Bosa, for as great as he is, Nick Bosa is a phenomenal player. He's in the tier of Myles Garrett, of TJ Watt, of the top edge rushers, Aiden Hutchinson, Micah Parsons. He's in that caliber of a tier. He's an A-plus player, former defensive player of the year for a reason. In this game, I thought he was pretty good. I thought, cool, Nick Bosa's getting back there. He's getting pressure. He's forcing the quarterback, Matthew Stafford, to move around in the pocket. When you do that, it likely means players like Javon Hargrave and Malik Collins and Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott will be able to secure sacks. He's stepping up in the pocket, getting closer to you. He's moving out of his spot. That's what an edge rusher is supposed to do. But despite all the good things Nick Bosa did today against the Rams, which were many good things, what is the one game Nick Bosa has taken over? You say that was a Nick Bosa classic. That was the Nick Bosa takeover game. That was just on display, full effort. Nick Bosa, he had 3 sacks, a couple TFLs, got a forced fumble. He did his job. The last time I can think of Nick Bosa taking over a game was his rookie season against the Carolina Panthers in 2019. Now, that isn't to say Nick Bosa hasn't had great seasons. Obviously, since then, won Defensive Player of the Year. But there really hasn't been this Nick Bosa put your stamp on a game, take over, and change the outcome, alter the trajectory of a game. And when your defense is reeling, like they were in this one, like Fred Warner had his Fred Warner statement game against the Vikings a week ago. He forced a fumble. He got an interception. He took over that game and was like, look, if you're not going to do your job, I'm going to take over. I'm going to force takeaways and force turnovers. I'm going to put my stamp on this game. For as great as Nick Bosa is, he does not take over games. Now, he does things that help other players take over games, that help you win many games. Like Kyle Shanahan has won a ton of games because of Nick Bosa. This defense is as good as it has been in previous years because of players like Nick Bosa. But when your defense can't cover backup receivers, when you're not stopping the run, when clearly Nick Sorensen doesn't really know what to do at times, you got to step up. You've got to be the one. You're the Defensive Player of the Year. You're the one getting paid record-breaking money at the time. You're the one that they have put in charge of leading the pack in changing the game. And you're 1 player out of 10 or 11. It's hard, but that's what you're paid to do. The Rams didn't have 3 offensive linemen, and you couldn't get home once to get the sack? Javon Hargrave, who did get 1 sack, I get he apparently strained his tricep, hurt his tricep. Hope it isn't too serious. But my goodness, man, he looked terrible today. He was getting pushed around and shoved around in run defense and pass rush. He got 1 sack, sure. Go back and watch it. It wasn't that impressive. He moved the guy out of the way, and the other guy was like, whoa, I don't know what to do. Like, the effort late in the game, just kind of ball snapped, and you're like, I'm putting my hands in the air, but I'm standing still, not sure what to do. The effort's questionable. And it's funny for a team and organization that has made it a point to, in training camp, in preseason, during OTAs, put the vests on the guys to see what the effort levels are. You paid this dude big money to be the DeForest Buckner that you didn't sign a couple years prior because you thought, well, we'll pay Eric Armstead instead. You let Armstead walk. Buckner's not here. You're reliant on Hargrave to play up to the money he's making. He's not. You're supposed to be this 10-plus sack guy, be who you were in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. That ain't the same guy. I get you're 30, but we all heard he's coming in this year with a new body. He's in the greatest shape of his life, and if the greatest shape of your life is sitting on the bench, losing 27-24, what is that worth? Malik Collins, who has been probably the most consistent player on the interior defensive line, has looked really good. Cool, great. But another player who you paid relatively a large chunk of money to, Leonard Floyd. When's the last time Leonard Floyd had a sack? Was it week 1 against the Jets? Okay, fine, whatever. You can't expect Leonard Floyd to have a sack every single game. I agree. Give him a break, right? No. Did you see him out there against the Rams? I know I didn't. There was only one play in like the first drive of the game where I was like, wow, Leonard Floyd. The subsequent 10 drives the Rams had, it was like, is he benched? Is he out there? Has anyone seen Leonard Floyd? He's on milk cartons because he's missing. You can't find the second edge rusher that historically has been pretty good. The effort's high. He's out there cleaning up sacks, getting tackled for losses. He's not a great player. He's a really good player, though. He's a really consistent player. That he's not going to beat right tackles 1v1. He's not going to beat the opposition's best offensive lineman. That's Nick Bosa's job. Leonard Floyd, you're going to go out there and beat the weaker right tackle, the weaker left tackle. You're going to go out there, when Nick Bosa gets the pressure, you're going to clean things up. You're supposed to be the best edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa since Steve Ford. That ain't happening. Leonard Floyd has been a no-show for 2 weeks. In fact, there are plays in this game. He's literally being schemed out of the play. There are times him and Nick Bosa are in coverage. I'm sorry. I get Micah Parsons does that at times. Okay. Chris Jones doesn't do that. Myles Garrett doesn't do that. TJ Watt randomly will do it, but it's very rare. I don't know what we're doing here, but when my defense is like, look, we're not getting sacks, we're not getting to the quarterback, wouldn't you want Nick Bosa hand in the dirt being like, look, I'm coming for you, Stafford?
Earning your degree online doesn't mean you have to go about it alone. At Capella University, we're here to support you when you're ready. From enrollment counselors who get to know you and your goals, to academic coaches who can help you form a plan to stay on track. We care about your success and are dedicated to helping you pursue your goals. Going back to school is a big step, but having support at every step of your academic journey can make a big difference. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
That didn't happen. And when he tried to, he couldn't get home for the most part. Leonard Floyd also just couldn't get home. In fact, Leonard Floyd couldn't even get pressure. He was getting stonewalled by backup right tackles and backup guards. And you're like, we're paying you $9 million? This is the guy we're paying, $10+ million to? Why? Give me a Menahue, an Arden Key, and Samson Ebukam back for half the money. It ain't worth it. And you're playing the team you were on a couple years ago. This is your revenge game. You go and sack the quarterback you used to play again or play for. This is a great opportunity to, you cut me, you let me go. He was like, I don't even know what football is. Do I run left? I run right? I don't know what to do. It's just a baffling performance from a guy supposed to be tasked with being the opposite guy of Nick Bosa, whose job should be 10 times easier because of that. And it's not been. Linebackers, Fred Warner, who wasn't, didn't have a Vikings Fred Warner game performance, was still fine. He was good. The qualms, the issues I have, which they are massive holes. Demetrius Flanagan Falls why are you on this team? I get you're a vet. I understand that you do bring, although at this point in time, not much, you do bring some special team flexibility. So does Curtis Robinson. So does D. Winters, who came back against the Rams this week. Tatum Bethune. Like, why aren't those guys playing? I get rookies, second-year players, practice squad guys. DFF is somehow showing Nick Sorensen and Kyle Shanahan that he belongs playing on this defense, who deserves to be the third linebacker. The play didn't count in this game, but I swear to God that DFF got sniped out of nowhere. He's just running and then falls. It looks like a force just pushed him forward. And it was like, did he trip? Was there a penalty? Like, what was that? He just fell out of nowhere. It was like, oh, okay. But my biggest issue is, and I tried so hard to say on Twitter, and I tried in the podcast when he signed, like, Devondre Campbell, it's just bad. He's past his prime. He's 31 years old. He's been injured a couple times. He's slow. He's not great in pass coverage. He's a run-stopping linebacker. They're telling to go cover Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington and tight ends. And I get you have to do that in the NFL. And one thing does need to be understood, that he was not their first choice. San Francisco believed they had signed Michael Kendricks, who then spurred them and said, no, I'm going to Dallas to play with Mike Simmer. Devondre Campbell was not their first choice. And obviously, no Dre Greenlaw. That's who you want out there. And we've been kind of spoiled. We went from Willis and Bowman to Bowman and Warner to Warner and Greenlaw. Like, that is a incredible lineage of linebackers to see back to back to back. And now you see Fred Warner out there, who against the Vikings was doing it all. It was like, great. In this game, the Rams were just eating Devondre Campbell alive. He essentially gave up one of the biggest plays in the game for them. Just so I can find out my notes here for a second. It was like the last drive of the game, right? It's Rams ball, 50-yard line. Okay. Punt coverage unit didn't do their job. Defense has to do their job. Got to step up. What and how are you going to respond? Literally the very first play. And this is more of a defensive, as crazy as it might sound, this is a defensive issue as a whole. 1st and 10, 50-yard line. It's 24-24. Game side. There is like 42 seconds left. The last thing you can do is allow big plays. In one play, San Francisco allows 3 penalties, commits 3 penalties. There was a defensive holding on Diamador Lenore. There was illegal use of hands also on Lenore. And the worst one is Devondre Campbell gets called for a DPI on Colby Parkinson for 25 yards downfield, immediately puts the ball for the Rams at 25 in field goal range, essentially putting this game away for San Francisco. What happened, man? Like, that's the last thing you can do, and the penalties killed San Francisco in this game. They gave the Rams over 100 free yards. Looking at the stats here, the Niners committed 7 penalties for 111 yards. And it's funny, if I told you that they outgained the Rams 425 to 296. Wow, San Francisco likely won that game. They averaged 6.5 yards a play to the Rams 5.4 yards. They had 288 passing yards to the Rams 198 passing yards. Rushing yards, San Francisco favored 137 to 98. Red zone drives, San Francisco 2 for 3. The Rams 3 for 5. Okay, not bad. Third downs and fourth down conversions. San Francisco 6 for 11. The Rams 5 of 12. San Francisco on fourth down, 1 for 1. The Rams 2 for 2. San Francisco is being aggressive. They held the ball for 7 minutes more than the Rams did, and they still lost this game. Sloppy mistakes all over the place. Devondre Campbell was terrible. There was a play earlier in the game where it was the fake play to Tutu Atwell, where he was playing quarterback, and it didn't even count, thankfully. But Devondre Campbell is on the sideline, can't even cover the running back or the receiver, and thankfully that it was incomplete, but my goodness, it's almost a catch. Like, he was getting gashed over and over and over again in pass coverage. He just cannot keep up with 2024 players. He's older. He's a linebacker of a bygone era. This was 4 or 5 years ago. Different time. The NFL has changed since 2019. It's very different. It's end arounds. It's screen passes that are, these exotic plays. It's bootlegs and play action, and it's speedy, small receivers and running backs. And there really is a more positionless football being played. And Devondre Campbell's like, I can only play in 2018 NFL. And you cannot tell me they can't put out D. Winters and Curtis Robinson and Tatum Bethune. I'd rather watch a rookie get beat like Devondre Campbell's being, because at least you can say, well, you have the skills to get better. You're just young and you need the reps. Cool, great. What does Devondre Campbell add to this team? I don't like watching anybody get cooked and burnt continually, but my goodness, I feel like I'm watching a murder. Every single play. Every single game, it's like, oh, well, there's the Devondre Campbell 35-yard completion he allows that gives the opposition a big first down or a touchdown. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Bad. I think one of the biggest factors, or a player that'll get the brunt of a lot of the issues today, will be Isaac Yiadom. And he was a liability against the Vikings. Even against the Jets, he was targeted a lot, but he looked pretty good. He was sticking with Garrett Wilson and Lazard. The defense looked a lot stronger and cohesive. Fred Warner called Nick Sorensen's game plan against the Jets flawless in his debut. If that was flawless, then what the heck do you call against the Vikings and against the Rams the last 2 weeks? It was terrible. It was terrible. Now, the defense was much better against the Vikings, 2 takeaways, but even then, Ty Chandler ran all over them in the second half. Sam Darnold was as efficient as possible. Third downs were just terrible. And those teams, that roster, albeit isn't great, has far better weapons than the Rams do, even with, at the time, Addison and Hawkinson being out. The Rams don't have Nakua and Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. They don't have their 3 receiving weapons on the field. Okay, you should be better. And while, yes, you were better on third downs, that's expected. This is a worse team you're playing. Isaac Yiadom in this game, who on the last drive for the Vikings a week ago now, he was the one cornerback that gave up that 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8 to give the Vikings, to clinch the game, essentially. In this game, he was a clear-cut, you are the weakest link, brother, get out. And it was like, what is going on? He was getting picked on consistently. And look, I want to give Matthew Stafford credit in this game. Matthew Stafford, the box score won't say this, but he was slinging that rock around. I have in my notes at the very top, as soon as, and I have it right here, on the Rams' first scoring drive, when they made it 14-7, it was a 16-play, 87-yard, 7 minutes and 44-second drive. 16 plays, 87 yards, 7 minutes and 44-second drive. I said, Stafford heating up on the final drive of the first half makes LA dangerous. Watch out. And from that moment, he was on. Matthew Stafford, to me, is Probably, if you go back and you play 2K like 13 and 14, they have the microwave badge. He's a microwave waiting to heat up in a split second. You give him those couple plays, he's on. He's sidearming things. He's no-looking to defense. He's going over the top. There were so many plays in this game where nobody's open, and he just said, F it. I'm throwing it deep. I'm hoping for a penalty. It might be an incompletion. I don't care. What do I have to lose? Isaac Yiadom was a victim of that a lot in this game. Now, there were times that it was a completion. But early in the game, the Rams' third drive, their first scoring drive, the drive that Matthew Stafford heated up on, it's 3rd and 8. You have them dead to rights. Great. 3rd and 8, 3rd and long, perfect. The first 2 drives have been great for your defense. Get off the field. They don't score. 3rd and 8, Yiadom allows a 25-yard catch to Tutu Atwell. Defense can't get pressure. That was Yiadom's first big mistake. Later in the game, penalties going back to flags and issues and undisciplined football. San Francisco just went up 21-7. Come out of halftime, it's 14-7. Rams get the ball to start second half. You get a 3-and-out. Jair Brown makes a great play on Colby Parkinson, knocks the ball away. Great. You get a punt, you get the ball back, you score 7. You're up by 2 scores again. Perfect. Your defense has momentum. Your offense is feeling good. You've answered their momentum. You have kind of slowed down what transpired before halftime. When they scored 7, when they got a fumble, like it all felt like it was going the Rams' way. You steered the ship correctly, got it back on course. You're feeling great. It's 1st and 15. Matthew Stafford throws a 48-yard pass towards the left sideline. Yiadom, who is near the receiver, just tackles him. I don't know if the receiver would have actually caught the football. He may have not. But he just tackles him. You gave the Rams a free 50 yards that later allows them to score a touchdown and answer your touchdown. So now it's down to a 1-score game again. Again, giving them free yardage, continual mistakes, penalties, missed field goals, bad punt block coverage, whatever it may be. San Francisco continues, whether it's the Vikings game or this game, but more so this game. This game, San Francisco deserved to lose the Vikings game. The Vikings came out and just played better than them. In this game, the Rams did not play better than San Francisco. Not box score-wise, not on the field-wise. This was a continual, how many mistakes can San Francisco make and get away with them? And unfortunately, when you don't have CMC, when you don't have Debo, when you don't have Kittle, and you have backups out there, and your defense can't stop anything, you're going to lose games like this a lot. It's hard enough to ask any quarterback, any offense, any defense, any team to win games when you continually make these catastrophic big-time mistakes, whether it is penalties or missed field goals or bad punt coverage or not covering a fake punt. Those things cost you. Your turnovers didn't cost you today. You had 1. It didn't cost you. You got no takeaways in this game. Fine, you got to play clean. The Rams didn't play clean. They didn't play perfect. They didn't score the first 2 drives of the game. In fact, you're up by 2 touchdowns the majority of this game, and you still lose. Just bad play to a point of, I think San Francisco needs a personnel change. Whether it's Rocky Sin or Renardo Green, they got to start against the Patriots. And that is a great game for a young player, for a personnel change to happen. I want to see Renardo Green, 2nd-round pick, be out there against the Patriots. They don't have any weapons. They're not going to be an explosive offense. It'll let you kind of get your feet under you in the NFL, let you get tested against not the greatest team. It's a good opportunity for a young player to get his bearings. Same goes for Devondre Campbell and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. One of those guys has to get benched. I want to see D. Winters. I want to see Bethune. I want to see Curtis Robinson. And Curtis Robinson played well enough in the preseason to likely start for this team. I have no idea why he's not. But Ronnie Bell can get reps, and DFF can get reps when both those guys have played worse than him. Safeties were fine. It was good to see Hufanga back out there, but you got two linebacker spots that are just massive black holes for your defense. Your cornerback number 3, Yadam, has been, I think he's a better player than how he's actually shown the past couple weeks, but he's struggling. Got to make a change. You got to make a change. This is not good. And this was an opportunity to bury the Rams. Now you're 1-2. The Rams are 1-2. The Cardinals are 1-2. Seattle's 3-0. And I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but it's really hard to win in the NFL. And 1-2 is no death sentence. The season's not over. There's a long way to go. A lot of games to right the ship and figure things out. But San Francisco's issues went from, oh, they're not that bad. The Jets game, wow. The holes they once had don't feel like holes. To, oh my goodness, after the last 2 weeks, these are like catastrophic, are going to cost you multiple games this season type of issues. And it's coming to a point where it's like, you want to talk Super Bowl, you need to start having a conversation of playoffs. Because the further the hole you dig, like we all want to talk about, well, 2021 they were 3-5, and 2022 they were 3-4, and everything was okay. No, that was hard for this roster. This roster was so burnt out against the Rams in the NFC Championship game, they were exhausted. That was the hardest this team has ever fought to get to the playoffs. Overtime in LA, Levi South, you got to win or go home, and if you lose, you are done. You're not in the playoffs, and this roster is too good to not go to the playoffs, right? That was hard. You were 3-5. You had a 2-game hole to dig yourself out of. You give yourself no opportunities late in the season for a blunder. And I'm sorry, San Francisco has to play Seattle Thursday night on the road. They have the Rams again, obviously. You should have got Puka Nacua back and Cooper Kupp back, and hopefully, if for their sake, their entire offensive line back. And younger defenses usually get better as the year progresses. And I know no Aaron Donald, but you already lost to him once, so who's to say it doesn't happen again? You have the Chiefs at home, you have the Dallas Cowboys at home, you have the Bills on the road, you have the Packers on the road. Like, you don't have this easy schedule later on in the year. It's only going to get harder. Guys are only going to get more hurt. Guys are going to get more worn down. You know, Purdy will have his great games like against the Rams in this one, and he's going to have his not so great games, and one day you're not going to be able to run the football. One day you're not going to be able to pass the football. One day your defense is not going to be great like it was against the Rams and the Vikings, and it's just like, oh, okay, like what's going on? And it's not going to get any easier. Your path to the playoffs has become incrementally harder now because you've blown this game. Being 2-1 and 1-2 is a massive difference. It's not impossible, but it doesn't make it easier. Now you beat the Patriots, you're 2-2. You beat the Cardinals, you're 3-2. Okay, it's not that bad. But those 2 games aren't promised. Now I would assume San Francisco beats the Patriots. If they don't, oh my goodness, panic button. Your season might be over at that point. But the Cardinals put 40-plus points up against this exact same Rams defense that you can only muster 24 against. Like, San Francisco has shown me that this version, the 2024 San Francisco 49ers, have not proven to be playoff caliber through 3 weeks. They have a inconsistent offense that should get better over time once they can get Ayuk back in the fray and they get CMC and Debo and Kittle healthy again, which Kittle probably back against the Patriots and Debo back against the Cardinals, hopefully, fingers crossed. But you have a bottom 10 defense so far that can't stop a piss-poor Rams offense. That's not good. Like, what has San Francisco proven to be given the respect last year's team was given? San Francisco went out there every single game and annihilated and crushed and made the opposition bend to their will. San Francisco is lucky to even have a will through 3 weeks. That's how bad this has been. And it's got to a point where through 3 weeks, I got to ask, did Kyle Shanahan choose the wrong guy at defensive coordinator? This is a long show, and I get that, but these things have to be said. This is a bad game. This is the worst loss under Kyle Shanahan likely since 2022, and if you want to go all the way back to his 2017-2018 years, probably ever. Like, this is the worst loss with a supposed good team in his entire tenure. This is really bad. Really, really bad. But Nick Sorensen, just observations of this game, he's calling stunts for the defensive line that are completely wiping away his own players. I cannot tell you how many times I watched Leonard Floyd just get erased from plays because the defensive tackles go left, he's supposed to go around them to the right, and he gets caught up, and he's like, I'm floating, I have no idea what's going on, and I can't move, I can't do anything, and he's out of a play. That's play calling. That is, guys got to do their job. Floyd has to do his job, Hargrave, Elliott, Collins, they got to do their job, sure, but that's play calling. That is a schematic issue. On the drive that led to the Rams field goal to make it 24-17 in this game, it's 3rd and 2. Stafford completes a pass to Parkinson for a first down. Sorensen continues to call press coverage when the offense is using bunches on the right side. It is the easiest first down you are ever going to give quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford, and even for a quarterback like Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford is a top 10 quarterback talent despite his age. You give him press coverage and bunches with how bad your secondary's playing, you're not going to win that battle. 3rd and 2, you do bunches, happened against the Vikings, happened against the Rams. Rams go score a field goal, make it a 1-score game again.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
There were also 2 more third downs later on in this game, which again, we talked about last week and previewing this game. Good and great teams stay on the field on third down and get off the field on third down when it comes to defense. Sorensen, it's 3rd and 2. Sorensen plays 5 defensive linemen and 1 linebacker, giving the Rams an easy first down on the 3rd and 9. Same thing. 5 defensive linemen, about 6 guys in the box, 1 linebacker. What happens? Those guys rush in. You don't have any coverage over the middle of the field. It's just Fred Warner, and he's by himself. He's got a zone to play in. He's not playing man coverage. It's a simple crossing route. When the guys blitz, Stafford just lost it over the defensive line for an easy first down and more to go on 3rd and 9. What are you doing, man? It's 3rd and 9. That's where you play a little back, limit the yak, and make them have to complete passes underneath before the first down marker, then hope your guys can make a tackle. I get you want to be aggressive, but there's a difference in being smartly aggressive, picking your points, picking your spots to make plays and call blitzes. It is one of the biggest issues that plagued Steve Wilks. He called his shots at the wrong time. Nick Sorensen, through 3 weeks, primarily in this game, called his shots at the wrong time over and over and over again on pivotal third downs, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 9s that cost San Francisco and their defense in this one. I get it. It's his 3rd ever game calling defensive plays. Unfortunately, you don't have time to build up your resume. You are a roster that is ready to compete now. At least that's the expectation. You don't have time to, once week 10 comes around, Nick Sorensen will be ready to go. No. You got to be ready to go from the jump. They try to get Belichick. They try to get Spagnuolo. Nick Sorensen was not their first choice. And I'm not sure if it's a Nick Sorensen thing or a Brandon Staley thing who works with the DBs, but there's a disconnect somewhere. And I'm not sure who's in charge of that. That's not for me to know, but it's not good. There is a clear, I'm just throwing things at a wall and hoping it sticks mentality right now. And I get it. You got to try things to learn what works. The issue is, you've been in this room for 4 or 5 years now. You've seen DeMeco Ryans. You've seen what works and doesn't work with Steve Wilks, and you've been under Kyle, and you've been the takeover, turnover ball guy. You've been in those meetings, they get the ball meetings. You've been leading those meetings. You've been a leader in this room, but the defense kind of feels like it is leader-less right now because it feels like it's Fred Warner and Nick Bosa playing individually, and there isn't much cohesion. Now, Lenore's played pretty good the past couple weeks. I do want to give him credit. But other than that, it's been kind of this, we just hope this works. And I don't know if that's Sorensen or if that's Brandon Staley. And I get they try to give these two guys together and hope it kind of combines into one great defensive coordinator. It's not working. It is inexcusable to give up 27 points to this Rams offense. It's inexcusable to lose this game in general, but to give up 27 points on the road when you have a 14-point lead early in this game and a 14-point lead in the third quarter, to give up 27 points, to give the opposition 20 points in the second half, to give them 13 points and let them outscore you in the fourth quarter is inexcusable on Nick Sorensen, on the defense, on Kyle Shanahan. And I tell you what, we talked about this last week, that without Christian McCaffrey, without Deebo Samuel, and now no George Kittle, not that San Francisco's offense has to be a certain way, but they have felt very identity-less, or looking for themselves, looking for who this offense will be. They're doing 5 wide with Purdy. They're running the football. They're kind of trying different things and trying to see what sticks. And that's fine. It's okay. This offense is good enough to do that on certain drives, and Shanahan's always trying to find out what works and doesn't work. Cool. But the offense we've come to know that has been at times reliant on Yak, and last year been boosted by Yak after getting the ball from Brock Purdy, is now in the NFL. Get this. Dead last in yards after the catch with 3.14. They have ranked number 1 every season since 2018. That's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Even in the COVID-riddled season that decimated this roster, they still led the NFL in yak with about 6.57 yards after the catch on average. They have half that. They have under half of that right now. I get no CMC hurts. You had Deebo for 2 games. You got Jauan. Ayuk's out there. Kittle's played 2 games. Right now, San Francisco is trying to find out who they are, just like everybody else is. I don't know who San Francisco is right now. I don't think they know who they are right now. If there was some kind of call to action, it would be, look in the mirror. Find yourself. Nick Bosa said after the game that this loss shouldn't be a bury it and move on kind of game. This is a loss you have to point to and say, we got to learn from this. You have to know what this feels like and never want to feel it again. San Francisco has to find out who this 2024 roster wants to be and who they will hopefully strive to become. Because right now it's a bunch of, I don't know, and I hope so, and a maybe, and well, once they get healthy, and that's not going to cut it in the NFL. And that's going to doom your season. It's going to waste what could be the last dance. Tough loss against the Rams, 27-24, inexcusable, shouldn't happen. Everyone has got to be better, not named Brock Purdy and Jauan Jennings. It was just a big bucket of bleh. That's how bad this was. I know it's a long podcast, but I had to rant and discuss every little thing because every little thing matters right now. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you could, leave a like on the show. If you're on YouTube, tell us what you thought of this game. Niners loss versus the Rams in the comments. If you could kindly like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube and the audio podcasting platforms. Give us 5 stars. Tell us what you thought of the episode. And again, put anything you want in the comments. Just give us 5 stars and tell us what your takeaways from this game were. Follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you want to see the San Francisco 49ers play in 2024, hopefully it's a win. You never know. But they're back home against the Patriots this Sunday. Okay? Go to SeatGeek.com. Find the seat you want. Green means good. Red means it's a bad deal. Go for the green. Obviously, green means go. Green means good. Find those tickets. Go to checkout and put in the promo code 49ers Access. 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And if you hate searching place after place, outlet after outlet, looking for the latest news on your favorite sports team, it can be the NBA, MLB, NFL. It can be the Rams. It can be the Niners. Go to sportspider.com. They collect everything from podcast, YouTube videos, online articles, and they put them all in one place just for you, the most committed fan of your favorite team out there. In one place, you can go down below and click that link in the description at sportspider.com to find all your latest favorite teams' news, articles, and podcasts in one place. And we are 3 weeks in to the NFL season. We're all playing fantasy football, but we're not just doing it on ESPN or Yahoo. We are doing it on the Locker Live Fantasy Football app. It's the best and easiest way to make money while you play fantasy football. We are currently at a jackpot of $450. If you want to win that, jump in the league right now. It's a $15 buy-in. Once we get 30 plus people, that jackpot goes higher and higher and higher. It can go as high as we want it to go. Tell your friends, tell your family. Again, download the Locker Live Fantasy Football app or click that link down below in the description. Check it out. You can play for free, or you can join our league titled 49ers Access, $15 buy-in, and you can win some big-time prizes, which, again, who doesn't love winning almost $500 simply watching the sport you love? That seems like a pretty good deal to me. But my name is Sterling Bennett. It's been a long one, but a much-needed long one. And until next time, hopefully we're talking a Niners win, but stay tuned. This week, we're previewing San Francisco 49ers against the New England Patriots. Week 4 of the NFL season cannot come soon enough. Enjoy your Monday, and as always, stay faithful.